For those of you who are new to state government, welcome. For those of you returning, welcome back. The goal of this presentation is to acquaint you with data practices in Minnesota. Those of you who have worked in Minnesota government might already be familiar with data practices, and this will serve as a refresher. As a commissioner of a state agency, you have specific responsibilities under Minnesota law regarding information and government records. We use data practices to describe how government handles data or information. The Data Practices Act advances open government, accountability, and transparency. In Minnesota, this law presumes that everything government creates as part of its official duties is public. This means, for example, that your email correspondence is public, unless there is a specific state or federal law that allows you to protect it from public view. There are 3 laws that provide the overarching structure for data practices. They are the Official Records Act, Records Management Statute, and the Data Practices Act. The bulk of your data practices responsibilities are found in the Data Practices Act, but it is important that you are aware of the Official Records Act and the Records Management Statute. The Official Records Act states that government employees must make and preserve all records necessary to a full and accurate knowledge of their official activities. This means government must create certain records. How a department chooses which documents to create as official records is within the mission and discretion of the agency. For effective and efficient government, records must also periodically be destroyed. The Records Management Statute applies to official records as they end their life cycle. Official records may be destroyed only as allowed by this statute. As Commissioner, you will want to know about your department's records retention schedule, which lists when particular records may be destroyed. Make sure that your department has a schedule and that your staff is aware of and complies with it. The Minnesota Government Data Practices Act is Chapter 13 of the Minnesota Statutes. As I mentioned, the bulk of your government data responsibilities originate in this law. Minnesota is unique from other states' freedom of information laws because of our presumption that all government data are public unless a law specifically classifies the data as not public. Government agencies are obligated by law to protect data that are classified as not public. Finally, it is important to remember that the Data Practices Act applies only to state and local government entities, not to the legislature or the courts. They each have their own rules. Government data are defined as anything that is recorded, such as paper files, emails, videos, electronic documents, or photographs, that are collected or maintained by a government entity. The Data Practices Act provides the classification scheme for government data. There are 3 classifications for data on individuals and data not on individuals. Who has access to the data depends on the classification. Remember, government data are presumed to be public, but may be classified by statute or federal law. Public government data are available to anyone for any reason. Examples of public government data are an employee's salary, work location, and expense reimbursements. Private or non-public data are available only to the data subject, individuals within a government entity whose work requires access to the data, other entities that are legally able to access the data, and those individuals with permission from the data subject. Private data are about an individual. Non-public data are not about individuals. Examples of private data are a government employee's home address or reason for using sick time. Trade secret data are classified as non-public. Confidential or protected non-public data are not available to the data subject. An example is active civil investigative data maintained by a state agency. Knowledge of data practices is critical to your role as the responsible authority. The responsible authority is the person who ultimately oversees the collection, use, and dissemination of all agency data and for all the agency's data practices decisions. As a state employee, data collected and maintained about you are personnel data, which are covered in Minnesota statutes section 13.43. Some data are public and some are private. For example, your gross salary is public information. If you conduct government business on a personal device, for example, a smartphone or laptop, any related data you create or maintain on such a device are government data and subject to the requirements of the Data Practices Act. Also, keep in mind that all work-related emails are government data, including those originating from a non-work-related email account. Your agency must have a Data Practices Compliance Official, or DPCO. If it does not, you must appoint an employee to fill this role. You may also designate individuals who are responsible for data within certain divisions. Talk to the DPCO and any individuals you appoint as designees to learn more about your department's data practices, policies, and procedures. You may also want to ask about your agency's data, the classifications, and your department's records retention schedules. And remember, the presumption in Minnesota law is that all government data are public, unless there is a state or federal law that allows for the data's protection. The Data Practices Office is a small division in the Department of Administration that offers advice, training, and expertise on Minnesota's government data practices and open meeting laws. The Data Practices Office's services include consulting on data practices technical and policy issues, assisting with drafting data practices legislation, preparing and providing education resources on these laws, assisting the Commissioner of Administration with statutory responsibilities. Thank you for watching this presentation on data practices. Feel free to contact the Data Practices Office with any questions.